Guys, I want to show you some tips. I've been shooting a lot of iPhone photography recently and posting it on my Facebook, and I thought it would be a good idea to round up some tips for an iPhone shoot. Now, here's the thing. An iPhone is just like any other camera, even though it's got all these other apps in there. Don't let that fool you. It's still a camera. It's got a lens. It's got a shutter. It takes pictures. You first of all have to treat it like any other camera that you own. Now, basic tip number one from Ansel Adams, he says, you do not take photographs, you make them. Taking sort of implies you're kind of catching them on the fly, whereas when you make a photograph, you're really putting the composition there, you're really making sure that your camera is adjusted properly, and you're getting the shot that you want. Okay, that's tip number one. Number two is something else he said as the most important point in photography. And he said, the most important point of photography isn't the camera, it's you. It turns out to be you. You're the one who visualizes the image. What do we mean by visualization? It means to have it in your mind's eye. You look at something and you see it and you feel it, and you're trying to get that across to the viewer. You're trying to convey the story that you saw or the emotion that you saw. It's your visualization, as opposed to a snapshot. It's just going like this. Without any thought, you're just pressing the shutter. What are you going to come away with? A bunch of snapshots. So if you want a great photograph, learn to visualize. Tip number three, you got to tell a story with your photograph. Again, these kind of all go together, but you'll notice that when you make a photograph, you visualize it, your next thing is you're passing along a tiny little story to your viewer. This is something I saw that I really liked, or this had some kind of amazing impact on me, or the colors here were really spectacular. The clouds were lined up just perfectly. That's your story. And one of the things you do with a story is you want to make sure you remove anything in excess to what you really need to be telling. That's true with writing. Good writers are really good at using a few words to describe whatever it is that they're trying to tell. They don't put in a lot of extra sentences just because, it gets more words on the page. Same thing with a photograph. You want to remove distracting elements, and you want to then focus on the main element of your story, and that leads me exactly to my next tip, number four, which is really focus on your main element. By focus, I don't mean just have it in focus, but put the viewer's eye on that main element in the story. Okay, sometimes I see photographs and you can't tell what I'm supposed to look at. Do you want me to look at the sky? Do you want me to look at the boat? Do you want me to look at the beach house? Put my attention where you want it to go. Focus in on that, and you're going to literally then expose for that element. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute with your iPhone. There's a way to change your exposure. And you're also going to focus in on that. And again, removing those elements that don't belong there. Number five, which is also one of those key points, this is something I learned from my uncle Sambo, who was a photographer. When I was about 11 or 12, I was getting into photography, and he taught me this one lesson, which is frame your photograph. What does it mean to frame a photograph? It literally means to have something around it that creates a frame or an edge. Like in this shot here, we have a little frame, don't we, of the tree. Now we could even be better at it and frame it even better, but look for something that establishes a border of your photograph. That does a bunch of different things. One, it establishes the context of the photograph. So here you see me next to a redwood tree, and there's a frame of the redwood tree. That says, well, I'm not in the city. Tip number six, really important. Zoom with your feet. Do not, I repeat, do not use the digital zoom in your iPhone. You will not be happy with it. Having said that, there are occasions where I do it, but I know I'm going to get a kind of a noisy shot unless I do something with it. Use your feet. Your feet are your best friends as a photographer. Really good photographers that I know, and the way I started, we had a single lens, one lens, so you had to move around a lot. One photographer told me, wherever you are, take one additional step forward, move in a little closer. When you're timid about things, what do? You kind of pull back. You step back and you're kind of a spectator. A good photographer moves in. They're involved in the scene. They get in there a little bit closer. Use your feet, don't use the zoom. Tip number 7, make friends with your camera. Get to know it. Now, there's some cool tips that we can go over. First of all, you have a lens here, and just like with any camera lens, you know, if I put my thumb on it, I've got it in my pocket, I've got some chewing gum in there, and this has actually happened. It smears across the lens. What kind of photograph are you going to get? So, get some a lens cleaning cloth. Get a lens cleaning cloth, okay, and just clean it every now and then. It's a tiny little lens. It's not going to take you very long. Even though I've got a cover on this, they have a cutout so the lens isn't covered by this plastic. But you want to make sure there's no thumbprints, chewing gum, or ink spots on there, because that's just going to really mess up your photograph. Clean your lens. Okay, so we're going to learn to adjust focus. So here's the deal. Once you've composed your shot, don't worry about focus or exposure until you get the shot composed. Then you tap on it, and that gives you a focus point, which you'll notice you can move around depending on what you want in focus. If I want the tree in the back in focus, I just tap on it there. If I want this closer tree in focus, I tap on that. Very cool, isn't it? The next thing you'll notice is you have an exposure control here. So by moving your finger up, it gets lighter, which means more exposure. And by moving it down, it gets darker. Now, normally the camera in here is going to do a really good job of, you know, adjusting to the right level, and you can fix this later in post-production, which we're going to have another tip to show you how to do that. Sometimes it's just too dark. You know, you're in the woods like we are here, and you just think, wow, it's just going to be way too dark. So I'm going to move my finger up, and I get it a little bit lighter. Or let's say you're out at the beach and it's really bright. So you would move your finger down just a little bit. You know, things in photography are like putting spice in foods. Sometimes just that little adjustment is all you need. That's another kind of sub-tip. You don't have to go to huge extremes to make a great photograph. Sometimes that little tweak that really gets you there. This is really cool, you guys. Okay, did you know you have a shutter release with your camera? Let me show you. So I plug in my earbuds, I tap on my camera. I like to do this where I'm left-handed, so I'll hold the camera steady and compose it with this hand. And look at this, by pressing either the plus or the minus button on the earbud, it's a shutter release. Isn't that cool? Why is that important? Because, you know, sometimes if you get excited and you tap this, you're moving the camera, which is one of its flaws, actually. So you don't have to worry about that. When you use the earbud, boom, I've got a photograph. The other thing I like about that is a little more camera-like, you know? It's a little less phone-like and a little bit more like I'm actually composing with a camera and I'm pressing the shutter button. Boom. That you're going to really have fun with. My last tip, final tip, go out and take photographs every day. Oops. Go out and make photographs every single day. You're going to get better and better and better. You're going to learn how to adjust your camera. You're going to learn how to think with the camera. You're going to learn how to visualize. And that's what it's all about anyway, capturing those images. Go out and do it. Be sure to subscribe now to stay updated on my show, and we'll give you tips and insight to keep advancing your photography.